Welcome to the deep dive. Imagine a building looks like it's running perfectly smoothly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But underneath, maybe there's water just silently being wasted.
Yeah.
Leaks nobody's noticed, or systems just consuming way more than they should.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Without that clear picture, you're essentially flying blind. And today, we're tackling exactly that challenge. We're diving into a resource that's, well, let's face it, increasingly strained: water in our built environment.
Absolutely critical.
Specifically, we're exploring WEP1, water metering and reporting. Now, this is a foundational prerequisite in LEBD plus C version 5 that's building design and construction for new construction,
Mm.
basically the latest standards for new green buildings.
Right, the baseline.
And I'm really curious to get into not just what this prerequisite demands, but sort of why this seemingly simple step is so fundamental for real sustainability and efficient operations.
It's definitely more than meets the eye.
And hey, if you want to keep exploring how we can build a more sustainable future together, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you along for more deep dives like this one.
So, what's really fascinating here is that the core intent of WEP1, it really goes far beyond just checking a box for compliance.
Okay.
It's truly about, first, conserving potable water, the clean stuff. Second, improving overall water management practices. And third, really giving building teams the tools they need to pinpoint problems.
Like leaks.
Exactly. Leaks, system inefficiencies, things like that. And ultimately, all of this supports continuous performance improvement because you're collecting consistent data over time.
So it's about ongoing management, not just a one-off check.
Precisely. Think of it as enabling visibility and accountability. It's really the critical first step to using water smartly, not just using less water, but using it intelligently.
That phrase, visibility and accountability, that really resonates. It sounds powerful. But, in practice, what's maybe the trickiest part? What do projects need to actually do, practically speaking, to meet this prerequisite? What are the core steps?
Well, there are essentially 5 key requirements to nail down. First, projects absolutely must install or use permanent water meters.
Permanent, okay.
Permanent. And these aren't just, say, for the water coming from the city. They need to track the total water consumption for the entire building and its grounds.
The whole site. Irrigation, too.
The whole site, everything. It covers all sources. So, yes, potable water, like municipal water, but also any alternative sources you might be using.
Like rainwater or gray water?
Exactly. Rainwater harvesting, gray water systems, even reclaimed water from a utility, perhaps. The idea is no drop should go uncounted. You need the full picture.
Right, a complete water profile for the whole project footprint. That makes sense.
Precisely. And that actually leads directly into the second key requirement. Alternative water sources must be metered separately from the potable water.
Ah, okay. Why the separation?
Well, that granularity is crucial. It ensures you get a really accurate picture of where every gallon is coming from and ultimately where it's going. You can't manage what you don't measure, and you can't measure accurately if it's all mixed together.
Got it. So separate meters for separate sources. What's third?
Third, the facility manager, or potentially even the tenants, depending on the setup, must have access to that water meter data.
Access is key.
Absolutely. It's critical for enabling active monitoring. Someone needs to be able to see the data, spot unusual consumption patterns, and intervene quickly if something looks off. It can't just be locked away somewhere.
Makes sense. Active management needs active data. What about reporting?
Good point. Number 4 is the commitment. Projects must commit to annual reporting to the USGBC.
Annually. For how long?
Annually, yes. You need to share the whole project water usage data with the U.S. Green Building Council every year. And that commitment lasts for 5 years after the project gets certified.
5 years is a decent chunk of time.
It is. Or the commitment ends if the building changes ownership or if the primary lessee changes before that 5-year mark.
Okay.
And a little tip here, something we see successful projects do, is to automate that data sharing. You can often link it through building management systems, BMS, or other cloud-based platforms. It just makes that annual task much easier.
I can imagine trying to pull that data manually every year for 5 years could be a challenge. Does automation make it pretty seamless then, or are there still hurdles?
Automation definitely helps smooth things out, but the initial setup and ensuring the data stays accurate and reliable, that can sometimes be a hurdle. You need good data hygiene from the start.
Right. Quality in, quality out.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to the 5th requirement, which helps define the boundaries, scope limitations, particularly for tenant projects.
Ah, like in a core and shell building.
Precisely. If you're developing, say, a core and shell office building, basically just the main structure, the exterior, the common areas, before tenants fit out their own spaces, this prerequisite applies only to the project's defined scope of work.
So you're not responsible for metering what the future tenant installs.
Correct. Future tenant installed submeters and the water they use within their leased space that can be excluded from your project's WEP1 compliance. You're responsible for metering the water use tied to what you actually built and control the base building systems, the common areas, the site irrigation you installed, etc.
Okay, understanding those boundaries is clearly important for compliance, especially in those kinds of phase or multi-tenant projects. But let's maybe zoom out for a second from the specific requirements. What's the bigger picture here? Why is WAP1 considered such a critical piece in this whole puzzle of sustainable building? It feels foundational.
It absolutely is foundational. If we connect this back to the bigger picture, think about water metering, like taking a building's vital signs.
Blood pressure for a building.
Exactly like that. Just as a doctor needs your blood pressure, your heart rate to understand your health and diagnose maybe underlying issues, WEP1 gives building operators that pulse on their water use.
Okay, I like that analogy.
And this isn't just about, saving a few gallons here or there, although that's important. It's often about uncovering systemic problems. Maybe there's a hidden leak in an underground pipe that's been slowly costing thousands of dollars and wasting huge amounts of water.
Something you'd never find otherwise.
Never. Or maybe the landscape irrigation system is programmed inefficiently and it's just pouring water onto the plants, silently draining resources. The real insight here, I think, is that this seemingly simple act of metering, of collecting data, can actually transform a building. It goes from being just a passive consumer of water to an active participant in finding solutions to water scarcity.
Turning consumption points into potential conservation hubs.
You got it. And in terms of best practices for actually implementing this, it really pays to think about metering infrastructure early on, integrate it during the initial design phases, and coordinate closely with your MEP teams.
MEP, that's mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Correct. Get them involved early. Also, choosing smart meters that allow for remote data access and maybe setting alarms for unusual use, that's becoming standard practice. And while it's not strictly required by the prerequisite for all systems, considering optional submetering for major water consumers.
Like cooling towers or...
Cooling towers, definitely.
Yeah.
Irrigation systems are another big one, maybe specific process water uses in certain building types. Adding submeters there gives you even deeper insights. It all comes back to that core idea. You have to measure what matters if you want to manage it effectively, and water definitely matters. So as the source material suggests, start with water.
It really drives home that water metering is so much more than just, another line item on an LED checklist.
Yeah.
It feels like it's the hidden engine, really, driving water conservation and operational intelligence.
Absolutely. And, maybe this raises an interesting question for you, our listener, to think about. How does this fundamental commitment, this act of detailed water tracking required by WEP1, actually create the necessary baseline, the foundation for future innovation, and for building resilience, especially as we face increasing global water scarcity?
That's a powerful thought.
It really pushes buildings beyond just being passive structures, doesn't it? It encourages them, maybe even requires them, to become active participants in tackling these broader environmental challenges we all face.
It certainly shifts the perspective. Well, if you're as fascinated as we are by how these kinds of innovative building practices can shape a greener, more resilient planet, definitely be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive. We'll have more crucial topics like this coming your way.